What it do, Crew Excellence? It's your boy, Justin Strickland, and I'm back with a very special episode of the Ladder Podcast. This is the 100th episode of the Ladder Podcast. You heard that correctly. Episode 100. We in the Century Club, baby. It is so dope to finally be here. I'm just saying, man, it's been a long couple years of dropping episodes nearly every single week. The good, the bad, the ugly. We've done it all. Had a great time doing it. And I'm here today with I just want to give back to the people, give back to Crew Excellence, give back to anybody who's been rocking with us, anybody who feels like they got something to say. Because that's what I realize when I'm out and about and I'm talking to people and they're like, hey, bro, I love your podcast, where you shoot it at. Asking all these questions, and I always hear some very similar things like, man, I want to start a podcast, or I had one, or I feel like I would be good on one. Like, I'm hearing all those things. And so today I want to give you 5 things that you can do to create a podcast that can make 100 episodes, okay? 5 things that you can do that create a 100 episode podcast starting today. So if you stay with me till the end, you're going to be on the road. I'm going to jumpstart you. These are things I wish I knew, right, before I got started, and things I had to learn along the way, that if you stick with me today, you're going to have the foundation you need to create a 100 episode podcast. All right, before we get in that, I want to jump into some housekeeping. This is the Ladder Podcast. And yes, it's my 100th episode, but you just might be meeting me today. I'm Justin. I love leadership. This whole podcast, every single episode of the 100 is about leadership. How you can grow, how you can develop skills you need, characteristics you should have, what you should look for in good leaders, what you should look for in bad leaders. All of those things are encompassed in the Ladder Podcast. And so if you think you are a leader, and I think you are, even if you don't, this is the place for you to be. This is the place for you to grow, develop, and become the best version of yourself. Because we think at the Ladder Podcast, at the Hope Institute, when you are a better leader, the world is a better place. All right, now make sure you like, subscribe, and share, just because this is episode 100. Put it right there, Nate. All right, we gonna do it just because. You have to like, share, and subscribe just because this is 100 episodes, okay? All right, now I want to jump into the 5 things you need to do to create a 100 episode podcast. Number 1, be consistent. All right, let's get it done. Be consistent. Now, that doesn't mean the same for everybody. You have to be consistent in your capacity. All right. Now, if your capacity is an episode every month, it's going to take you a long time to get to 100 episodes. Okay. Just being honest. So it'll take you a long time. All right. Now, for me, I did an episode a week. Some people do 2 episodes a week. I've seen some people do an episode a day. Right. Whatever you can be consistent at, you need to do it. And so if it's once a week, you got to stick to it. Every day, every week, that day, it needs to come out, okay? If it's every 2 weeks, or if it's twice a week, Wednesday and Friday, Wednesday and Saturday, whatever you come up with, you have to be consistent. Now, there are 3 things that I think are very important when being consistent. The first I already talked about is output. Consistency is connected to your output, not anything else. When we talk about creating a podcast that is consistent, we're talking about one that your viewers can depend on. And dependability looks like it's going to be a new one next week, or it's going to be a new one tomorrow, or in the next couple of days, whatever that looks like. And so if you look at any of the top podcasters, you'll notice they have a very consistent rhythm in their output. And so you need to decide that before you start. How often is this going to come out? Do not put out your first episode until you know when the second one is coming out. Okay? Because I've done that. I've been there before. The Ladder has 100 episodes, but I have other podcasts that have 50 episodes. Some have 5, some have 10. I've done other podcasts before. And one of the issues I ran into was I did not have a declared or set aside consistent output schedule. And so I would do it when I had time. And eventually that becomes into I don't have time. And so it doesn't come out, okay? So develop an consistent output schedule. And you need to decide, is your podcast going to be topic-based or partner-based? Now, if you have a partner, I don't. But if you have one, you and your partner need to agree on output, and that can be something helpful in you being consistent. Because I like a lot of partner podcasts. I have nothing against them. And one thing that helps with them being consistent is their rapport. They like each other. They like spending time with each other. They like building this business together. And so that helps them be consistent because they have somebody else to depend on. Right? It's like, man, I do a podcast with Jamal. I can't let Jamal down. I got to show up today. Right? And if Jamal's thinking, I got to do a podcast with Shantae, I got to, show up. And so that having a partner can help you be consistent because it helps create accountability. And then topic-based. Topic-based can help you be consistent because it can create consistent content. And so sometimes what happens with podcasts is you don't have anything to talk about. Let me say this, you run out of things to talk about. A lot of times people start podcasts because they think they have something to say, but you realize 2 or 3 episodes in, you've said what you thought you had to say. And now you're like, what am I going to say now? Having topic-based approach to your content can help you create more and more content. It can help you stay consistent because you'll start to see things on TikTok or Threads or Twitter or whatever in life that fit into this topic, and you can recreate that. You can use that to create content. All right. So number 1 is be consistent. Number 2 is good production. Now this one I used to underrate. And one of the reasons I used to underrate it is because I'm like, man, I got a phone and an iPad. Let's turn up. Like, I can do a podcast. And technically you can. So I don't want to dissuade you and be like, you got to have this level of production that Big Dog Nate has. It don't have to look this good. But you do need quality lighting. People need to be able to see you and see you well. And you do need quality sound. Podcast is audio. It's about hearing you. Although I'm on YouTube, I do video podcasts. I have audio on Apple and Spotify. Like the audio has to be crisp. They have to be able to hear you. I was actually listening to a podcast from a few years ago on YouTube, and he had a buzz in his mic, and it was so annoying. I made it through the whole podcast because the information was good, but the buzz was annoying. That kind of stuff, but this is the thing. He's a ginormous YouTuber. He has 1 million subscribers. And so he can have one episode with a buzz, and people who follow him like, oh, that was a mishap, and I'll listen to the next one. You're not him, okay? If someone listens to an episode of yours, and if the first time hearing you and your audio isn't clear, they will not listen again. Okay, even if the content's good, even if the lighting's good, if your audio's bad, they won't listen to you. Or vice versa. Say your audio is crisp, but I'm like, I think it's a person. They will not tune back in. Okay, fine. This is the thing. You don't need a ton of production to get good audio or lighting. You can go sit outside. If you know what I'm saying, you stay in an area with good sunlight, you go sit outside at the right time of the day and have perfect lighting provided by the Lord. Okay. And then sound is so easy, man. You can get the little clip-on mics off of Amazon or go to your tech store that have really good sound quality. And I have one that's noise canceling, right? It cancels wind noise and all that. So you can do this without having a whole bunch of production, but it is necessary. And the reason I say it's necessary is because one of the things that has helped and keep me going, if I'm being honest, right, is people hitting me up and being like, hey, man, your podcast looks great. Like, it looks great. It sounds great. And for me, I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Like, I got good production. People are respecting my product. Because ultimately, that's what you're doing. When you're creating a podcast, you're creating a digital product. And by having good lighting and good audio, you're creating a quality one. And so you have to be intentional. Don't just get to talking. People think podcasting is just talking, but it's not. It's so much more than that. And lighting and audio is a huge piece of that. So having good production is the second thing that you need to do if you want to make a 100-episode podcast. Number 3, this is something that's not necessarily for the long form that you put out, but you have to really in today take your long form and put out short form as well. So this is more so about your clips that you use for your podcast. Number 3 is captions. You need to have captions on your clips. Okay. This is why, and this is something that I actually was following one of the guys who really was on the front end of this trend. His name is Marty Woodard. Shout out to Marty. He don't give me no money or nothing. I don't know him in person, but this guy, he was really at the front end of this on Instagram specifically, as he started to put captions on all his videos and not the auto captions. And so there's a button you can push on your Instagram that'll do auto captions, but if you ever done it, it's not very good. It's AI, and if you have any kind of accent or lisp or swag, it'll mess up what you're saying. And so going in, and what I do is I have AI generate my captions, but then I check them to make sure that that it's saying what I said. Okay, but having those captions on the screen are helpful for a few reasons. One, it makes your podcast accessible for people with disability, which is important. Okay, we're talking about you want to have you're new. You're trying to gain an audience. You want to have as few barriers to your content as you can. So if someone is hearing impaired and you have captions, they curate their own feeds, right? You will be a part of their feed, and that's helpful, okay? Number two is people are on their phones at work. If I can only hear your video, but I'm in my cubicle, I'm not going to watch it. But if I can read your video in my cubicle, I'll watch it. And so people are at work, people are at church, people are in the car, and all these different places where they don't want to turn the sound on, right? My wife is famous for this. Like, she sends me videos, and I always be like, you didn't listen to with the sound on, did you? And she'd be like, no. And I'm like, go listen with the sound on. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what it was, or I didn't know I had no clue. I'm like, yeah. So there are people like that who just watch videos with no sound on. Having captions, because podcasting is about our words, right? I'm not backflipping or nothing. You need to have the captions so people can read along and follow what you're saying, even with the sound off. And then the last part is just more of an algorithm thing, is captions oftentimes is what catches the eyes of someone scrolling. And so they're scrolling, and when they see a caption, their brain goes, I need to read this. And especially if it's not the auto captions. If you do some cool things with your font or colors or whatever, and they see it, their brain goes, I need to read this, and they'll pause. And that's when you have a chance to catch their attention and get them locked in onto what you're talking about. And so captions is super important. Number 4, this is the thing I'm the worst at, and Nate be getting on me, and he's right, and I don't care. But number 4 is you need to pay attention to the algorithm. You need to pay attention to the content that you put out that does well. Okay? If you do something and you're like, bro, I don't even know if people are going to like this, and it blows up, you need to go see why. You need to see, what did you do different? What did you talk about? Was there something you did with your lighting? Was there a certain audio you used? Did you have a certain guest on? Like, what are the things that you did on this episode or this clip or this podcast that you put out that made it do differently than the other episodes? So you're looking for outliers, both ways too. If you have something that does horrible, you need to see why. What was I talking about? Did I put it out late? Was my title bad? Because that's something I had to work on. My titling was real bad. It was really just basic. I was just saying I would do a podcast on leadership, and I would put podcast on leadership. Ain't nobody trying to watch that, okay? So I had to get better at titling and using some different things to get better titles so that people would watch my video. But those are the things that I was not thinking about before I started, that I had to start thinking about more and more and more. And so you have to be consistent in understanding that you are a business. Like, as you're creating a podcast, I just talked about earlier, you're creating a digital product. And whenever you are a business and you're creating a product, you have to listen to the market. And the market is your views. The market is your comments. The market is your shares, right? The market is your subscribers and followers. And so you don't have to be a slave to the market, but you have to be aware of the market and pay attention to what the algorithm is telling you. If it's saying, hey, this content does really well, this content doesn't, then you should, if it's still in your character, right? Because I don't want you to make content that you don't like. I talked about this, man, I don't know how many episodes ago, one of my homies, and we was talking about, he's an actor, and we talked about worse than being at a 9 to 5 you don't like is having to create content you don't like. Like, that's even worse because you thought creating content was going to make you free, and now you're in even more of a position of slavery because you're doing stuff you don't like every day. And so don't make content you don't like. But you should do that to begin with. So you shouldn't have content that pops up that you don't like, because you should be making content you don't like. All right, I'm off my soapbox. But pay attention to the things that does well on the algorithm and use that and leverage that for future episodes and future ideals for your brand. All right. And then number 5, you got to create a process and a goal. Okay. So one of my goals, me and Nate sat down, and shout out to Nate, man, because Nate has been super important with this podcast and with it reaching 100 episodes. Like, a big reason of that is because of Nate. But we sat down and Nate was honest with me, right? Nate has a digital production company, and he does a lot more than just podcasts. And he said, "Hey man, like, are you just doing this for fun? Basically, like, are you gonna do this for a few episodes and then dip out?" Because he had some people do that, and I was like, Nate, I've done that before. The reason I'm here is I want to do something different. Let's shoot 100 episodes and see what happens. And Nate was like, "You sure?" I said, "Let's shoot 100 and then we'll see what happens." And so because I had that goal, right, I could work backwards and create a process. That's how I came up with my once a week output. That's how I came up. I wanted to do topic based and not have a partner, because I've done podcasts in the past or a partner based, and I love my people, but they have been inconsistent at times, and that inconsistency has limited my output. And so I was like, I'm not gonna do partner based. I will bring guests on, but I have to be able to show up on a Thursday, me and Nate, and put something out, because I got to get to episode 100. And so you need to create a process and a goal that is conducive to your environment and to what you want out of this. For me, I'm using my podcast. It's a marketing arm of my business. So all the dollars I spend on producing and having they edit, all of that is in my marketing budget. This is how I market my company. I do leadership development. I have a free marketing plan for you. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can get leadership development. Okay. This is part of the process. Another part of the process is, how do you find your topics? How do you find your guests? How do you find your content? That's got to be a part of your process. One of my favorite creators is Kev on Stage. He spends almost all day on social media, okay? And he probably got a problem, but hey, it's what makes him successful. And he's always coming across tweets and TikToks and threads and other Instagram reels. And he's saying, hey, I can react to that. Hey, I can respond to that. Hey, that's something that fits into my brand. I got something funny to say about that. And he's using all these different pieces of other people's content to create his own, on top of his organic original content that he does as well. And so one of the things that I do is I get on threads and I'll search leadership, and I'll go to trending and I'll see what's trending. And that's something new I'm doing, because Nate keep telling me about the doggone algorithm. But that's been part of my process. Another part of my process is I love history. And so I probably have 20, 30 episodes that are just about people in antiquity, leaders from all different times. And I go through their leadership styles and what they did as leaders, because that's one of my loves. And so that's the type of content I can pull from anywhere. If I don't got nothing else to say, I can grab a leader and break them down, because I study that stuff and I really enjoy it. Another way I find information is I find guests. And so I actually have people that I know who are dope, and I bring them on, and that's the content. That's the content. We have a conversation and we have a really good time. That's something that I really do enjoy, and something that I've noticed that helps my reach. My episodes with guests typically do better than my episodes by myself. There's a lot of reasons for that. But that's something that I noticed, and it's something that I use and I'll leverage. And so that's something that you have to really, really lock in on. What platforms will you use? This is a big one. Are you going to just do YouTube? Are you going to do Instagram? Are you going to do TikTok? I feel like doing a long form podcast and not having short form platforms, you're missing out. You're missing out, especially with all these AI services that will clip it for you, and you don't even have to do it. I just feel like you're missing out. So I feel like you need to have 5 platforms for your podcast. Okay, these are 5 platforms. It's a bonus if you made it to the end. 5 platforms that you need for your podcast are YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Okay, and then you need to have at least one audio. So that's either Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So you need to have those 5 for your podcast. Okay? Now, you might say YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Those are all video platforms. I don't want to shoot video. I'm shy. Take your audio and put a picture with it. Okay? Take your audio and come up with a static picture with captions. Find a way to create short form content on those 4 video platforms at least. Even if your main thing is the audio, you need to have a video, some kind of video grab as well, because it's a way that you can develop your audience organically across different mediums, because there are some people that will find you on Facebook that would never see you on YouTube. I have people who watch my podcast on YouTube who don't even have Apple Podcasts downloaded, who don't even have Spotify. They've never listened to an audio podcast in their life, and they're subscribed to my YouTube channel. And so you don't want to limit your audience because you are you're lazy. Let's just be honest. You don't limit your audience because you're lazy. Like for me, the crazy thing about me, my biggest platform is not any of those I just named. My biggest platform is LinkedIn. And so I use LinkedIn. I post my clips on LinkedIn all the time, and they do really well. And I have a really healthy following on LinkedIn. Now, I'm not famous or anything like that, but that's my biggest followers on LinkedIn. And so I would have never guessed that when I first started, but I was intentional in putting other stuff out in other places just to see. And now I'm like, okay, I need to be more consistent. And so creative process and goal. Last thing is, how many episodes will you produce? You need to have a set number before you give up. It doesn't have to be 100. 100 was mine because I've done this before. I knew I could get to 50 pretty easily. I need to get to 100. But yours might be, I need to put out 20 episodes and then I'll reassess if this is working. I need to put out 50 and I'll reassess if this is working. But it needs to be a big enough number that requires you to do work and be consistent. But it needs to be a number that you can commit to in your season, right? And then see what happens. Because this is the thing. I have a podcast that comes out every week, but I know very successful podcasts that do seasons like a TV show, where they'll have 12 episodes each quarter, and then they take or each half of the year. So they have a season 1, season 2, they split it in half of the year. They do 12 episodes the first half, 12 episodes the second half, and they may shoot every single episode in January. And then they just put out the seasons, right? The season 1, it goes from this date to this date. I'll see you next season, which will pick back up in August. That's okay. If that's the rhythm of life that you're in, and that's something you can be consistent with, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Nothing wrong with that at all. And so I want to encourage you because I just being honest, this is super important to me that I made it to this milestone just because it's been a lot of investment into this. Money, time, energy, brain space that I've invested into this platform, into this podcast. And it is one of the coolest things I've ever done, if I'm being honest. And I've done a lot of cool things in my life. But creating 100 episodes of a high quality podcast, a digital product that I'm proud of, is one of the coolest things that I've ever done. And it's something that I'm very proud of. And so if you've been along this journey, thank you so much. I always say it's an honor and privilege to hang out with you, because it is. I get on the internet and I just see the millions of pieces of content that you can interact with every single day. And for some of you, you guys interact with almost all of my content I put out. I'll see you like it on YouTube, comment on Instagram, share it on TikTok. And I just want to say thank you, because you don't got to do that. And I don't take that for granted. This is not the end at all. I am excited to continue going and continue to create a product that is worthy of your attention. And so I'm going to do what I always do in between podcasts, which is hang out with your mama, your granny, your auntie, because they cook good and smell good. And until next time, man, I love y'all, man. It's Justin Strickland, episode 100, man. I'm out of here, man. Peace.